Guys, what's going on? My name is Ryan. I play chess, put my videos on YouTube. I have a pretty good game for you here. Played a Screddy from America who was slightly above me in rankings. He's a 1500 level player. It was a very sound, solid game from both sides. He starts out with this move, which is an interesting move. It's the English, and it's a hard move to play against. But I know that, that's part of the move of Queen's Gambit. So, and I know that, a queen, it's just a way for me to use the French variation to force a Queen's Gambit game. And I think that's important to understand in some of your own chess games, is that a lot of openings you can use against other openings to get the type of game you want to play. And an example of that is this exactly, because he could have just as well played, the king's pawn here, the queen's pawn here, or this move, and all games are going to go the exact same way for me. So I start off with the French, which is e6. He does the regular English. And if he takes here, I get to develop my bishop and attack this f2 pawn, the most vulnerable pawn in chess. So he decides to push there, which is probably his best move. I just take here. He takes back with the pawn, and then I solidify this little central pawn chain that I have going. He solidifies his. Now, usually I don't like to block my bishop with my knight, but if you've been watching any of my last couple games, you know that I like to fianchetto this bishop. And I guess I did a double fianchetto this game. So he pins my knight. I'm totally fine with that if you want to trade. I go ahead and castle. Now, I don't really like these moves. This is like a half-developing move. This really isn't doing anything special with the bishop. A better move for him would probably be to pin my knight, I guess. It'd be, a double pin here, which is kind of hard to play against. And then you could think about pushing this pawn here, and, But this half-developing move with the bishop, I think, is a pretty weak move. Anyways, I decide to kick this bishop. He moves back, and I have full expansion on the queen side. He... Thought I had a tactic here or something. Anyways, so he reroutes his knight. I attack the bishop again and gain some valuable space on the queen side. I always like to have some active pawns here. This is very restricting from his point of view. He drops it back. I'm able to now jump in here with a nicely supported knight right in the center on the queen side. I think it's important to note that instead of moving right here where he could take it right now, this is a valuable knight. And with these pawns on the queen side, I'm basically locking down a bunch of very important squares. He goes ahead and defends this because I am attacking it 3 times now with this knight, this rook. He's now defending it 3 times. I move my queen here to an offensive position. He probably has dreams of exchanging bishops here now. And I go ahead and threaten moving this knight and coming in here with a nice check. So he extinguishes that threat, and I go ahead and take. He takes back with the queen. It's probably his best move. It threatens this knight. I can't move this knight now because of... he would just take my queen back. But him moving his queen here allowed me to take this pawn. So I go ahead and take the pawn. Gets his rook out of the way. I drop my pawn back to this square specifically because I don't want any, shenanigans from this knight over here. That would be pretty dangerous. So I drop my bishop back right here, which is just as good as inside here, but it defends this diagonal as well. He tries to undermine my pawns there, and I think this is a blunder from him, simply because this is a free pawn now. I love this tactic. It's a great tactic if you don't use it. It's taking with the knight and then taking back with the knight. So I take with the knight, and he decides to take with the bishop, which is a fine move. He messes up my pawn chain a little bit. I go ahead and take the queen, he takes back with the rook, and then I take back with my material. So right now I'm up 2 pawns. It's a very close game. This bishop isn't doing a whole lot for me right now. He comes down with a double threat on these pawns. So this pawn right now becomes very important to me because I have dreams of pushing this passed pawn and queening it. So this pawn right now is basically, it's done for. So he's able to take that, and then I push it again, threatening this, threatening queening this. So he stops that. What I think he should have done is probably move his rook back to e1. Instead, he does his knight here, which I don't think is his best move. I threaten the rook there. He drops it back, threatening to take it for the first time, and I obviously defend it. He pushes that pawn, which I think is a mistake for that reason, I guess. And then he puts his knight there to stop any advance. I go up here threatening taking that pawn, but then again he would just take my pawn. But what I really wanted to do is just be able to slide my new rook in here and support this knight, or support this pawn again, which would allow me to take this pawn. I probably thought, I could defend this first, could defend this pawn with this bishop. Anyways, we'll just see how it planned out. So he has a double attack on this now. I give up this pawn, but he decides not to take it. I give up the pawn a second time to bring my bishop out to defend it for a third time. Notice I have 1, 2, 3 defenders to his 1, 2, 3 attackers. He wants to bring this pawn here and force my bishop to go somewhere. So I stop that by offering to take this knight instead, and then coming back with check and then queening. So he recognizes this and just takes it and gives up a lot of material by doing so. I take with the rook, takes with the rook, take the knight, and now I'm up +6 with a winning endgame, and it's pretty simple from here. I just check again, take a pawn. Maybe that's why I originally didn't bring my bishop all the way in, is because this check right here is pretty annoying. I always like to have this 3-pawn structure more so than if I had kept this g7 and moved this h6. I like having my king right here. It protects this pawn. So I'm threatening mate right now in a ton of different ways. For instance, this is mate right here. This is mate. Actually, no, that's not mate. But this pawn right here is pretty deadly. Anyways, I'm just, I've got a large advantage right now. That's what I can say. So he goes ahead and does that, realizing that there's not a whole lot left he can do. Maybe he's trying to force a stalemate, but unfortunately he would have a stalemate if not for this d5 pawn. And he resigned here because he realizes he has this d5 pawn that he still has moves yet to move. Anyways, I thought this was an interesting game. Let's just go through it one more time real quick. Another thing about this knight move here is that it stops the exchange of bishops, because he can't move his bishop here anymore. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in your chess.